continue to do, it'll be those people that get the Department of Justice to come down on us harder than we have experienced now, because we're allowing them to be renegades in our industry. You guys are going to have to start manning up and womaning up and reporting these people so that we can fix those things before the Department of Justice says, we're going to rebuke you all's settlement. We feel like you have not been faithfully trying to do this. So here's the death blow to you all. And we're not going to even let you split co-broke fees anymore, because we wanted the seller not to be able to pay you at all. We didn't even want that, but because y'all were at the table and negotiated, okay, we take it off the MLS, but we still allowed to call around outside the MLS and still talk about co-broke fees. That's not the position that the Department of Justice wanted. As a matter of fact, the attorney that was in the Setzer case said we don't even need buyer agents because they don't do anything. We got the internet. They can get all the information from there. They can get appraisals and they can get loan approvals and they get approved. Buyer agents don't do anything. So the settlement of $1.78 billion, which is triple, which is the class action, is $5.53 billion. All of those people, if you didn't get a letter yet or a postcard yet, it says, have you sold a home in the last whatever? And did you have to pay a buyer side commission on it? That's what they're going after. Those people who are going to get that money are people who had to pay a buyer side in the transaction. They're refunding money to them because they said, we don't need buyer agents. Buyer agents don't do anything. Buyer agents don't earn. I have been out of town every week since January. And I'm on part of the team that's trying to share with our agents all across the country. The reason I'm saying this is, Alicia, you said, I'm going to let that go. We got to stop letting that go. You got to tell that agent who was saying that is a violation of federal fair housing. And I know it's not you, but you need to advise your seller to call their attorney before they make a decision of not allowing my client to actually see your home or to rent your home, because being a violation of federal law puts it in a position that my renter could own your seller's house. Well, so you have to tell them that.
Yeah, I would do that now, but this was right. This was before. This was before when this happened. Okay. But yeah,
I'm just saying that to all the people on the call, if you find an agent who is misbehaving,
snitching,
then we gonna have to clean it up, because DOJ says we ain't gonna do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And they're saying we're not gonna be able to make this transition, and they're just waiting to pounce. We are operating on a temporary approval by the judge, which does not go final until the 26th of November. The Department of Justice has already said we are still watching and evaluating all of your real estate activities. And if we don't get this right, folks, if we don't get this right, it is going to really, really be bad if they come back in and they say, no, y'all's settlement was not severe enough. It is not enough for you all to do the right thing. We're not going to like the outcome of what that's going to be later on. So y'all are in positions now. Brian, I'm a director, just like you're a director. That's another thing that's put on us. That's another onus that's put on us, that we can't allow renegades in our industry to mess it up for everybody else in the industry, because they're not going to just get them. They're going to come down on us collectively as an industry and have to change whatever it is we're doing. Because right now, did y'all know there were only 7 or 8 realtors that this lawsuit went down on?
No.
And it wasn't, 7 or 8. And so those 7 or 8 got an attorney, and we live in the greatest country in the world where they can get an attorney and go, and they probably knew a legislator who could actually push this thing up and go. We do about 1 million transactions a year under NAR. And we did not have 1 million people unhappy with realtors' work. We only had about 7 or 8. That's all we had.
Said they'd use the agent again. Like almost all of them said, I'd use this agent again.
That's right, that they would go back to their agent. But we got hit as a whole because we had a few who were doing things that maybe they felt we shouldn't have been doing. Dr. Ewan says, well, why didn't they just choose another agent? Why did they have to sue us? Because they were able to get an attorney who saw some money. And by the way, the judge awarded the attorneys a third. He said, well, it was a class action lawsuit, and they had to work hard, and they had to put a lot of money up. So we think it's reasonable to give the attorneys a third of the 1.78 billion, which we negotiated down to 410 million. So you can imagine that those people in the settlement are going to get like $3.52 each. And the attorneys are the ones that are going to walk away with the big bulk of money. So I'm just a little passionate about that. And I'm glad, Alicia, you explained to me that was earlier. But I'm tired of renegades in our industry causing issue with the rest of us because they don't want to do it right. Or they thinking that they can do it the way that they want to do it. And I think that, as Nikita said, we got to become ruthless with those who don't want to act right and don't want to do the right thing.
Well, you know,
it's 2 agents to do a deal, because you can't do just one person doing both sides. There's no ethical, standards there, and both agents help each other out as a team during these transactions. So, I mean, you got to have 2 agents.
That's true.
And there's a fintech that just popped up from one of the I'm not sure if it's one of the attorneys or one of the plaintiffs who are involved in that lawsuit. They then came up with this fintech company. I saw an article where they're trying to discount what we do. And to me, when I read that article and what they're charging, I was like, make that make sense, because to have a business as a realtor, it costs a lot of money to even run.
But they thank you. I can't sidetrack y'all in that course because I teach those courses, but I'll just give you a little bit. They already think we make too much money. We had 3 pieces of the lawsuit: decoupling of the MLS because we were price fixing. There was collusion, and we did not have transparency. They had the sellers who sued, who says that they're paying too much because they're having to pay the buyer's agent brokerage compensation, and they shouldn't. Then we got the buyer saying that they pay too much because the seller's increasing the price of the house to offset the buyer's compensation. I mean, the buyer broker's compensation. So we had DOJ lawsuit, which is still going. We had the seller side, which we just tried to settle. We have yet to see the buyer side lawsuit, and it's going to be worse. Oh. We're just letting you know right now, when that starts to surface, it's going to be worse because they actually have video of some of our large companies in their training rooms teaching agents doing the bad stuff. So the buyer sides have not even shown up yet. So that's something we'll be having to look for and deal with. But the DOJ lawsuit is still going because the appeals court said they could renege on their deal. By the way, we are taking that all the way to the Supreme Court because NAR feels that once they had approved what we said and signed off, they cannot go back on it. A court said to us that once a government entity agrees to something, they have to abide by it. We thought we had won. They appealed it. That appeals court reversed it and says, no, the government can come out of it. Then we appealed it to the 13th, the DC 13th Circuit, whatever it is in DC, and they said they denied our appeal. So the notice that the directors just got a few days ago, we're going to be taking it all the way to Supreme Court. So that stuff is still percolating, and we're working diligently to try to make those things work out. But Alicia, the fact is that the consuming public feels that we make too much money. We, as an industry, have never had to come off of our pricing, even though commissions are negotiable up until the time of closing. The consuming public hasn't felt that we were negotiable. They said they went to ABC Realty and they said it was 3 apples. And they went to XYZ Realty and they said, where's 3 apples? And then they went to 123 Realty and they said it's 3 apples. And they're saying, we can't go anywhere and get a better number. And why is that? When every other entity has to actually go up and down. When cars are not selling, they have to reduce cars. They reduce interest rates to 0. When the gas in the summer goes up because you got more drivers. In the wintertime, it goes down because the retailers are not selling enough gas, so they have to lower their prices. And they're saying, why is real estate always the same? Why is real estate numbers always the same, no matter what the economy is doing and no matter what it's doing? Real estate's the only one that gets to stay the same. Now, all I'm doing is sharing it with you. I'm not saying that's my stance. I'm telling you this is what the consuming public is seeing. And they don't see any movement at all in that. So these lawsuits are designed to cause movement in that. In that, why would it be? They said the price of homes have gone up and realtor fees are still the same. So they've been making more money already. And yet they're the only entity that doesn't have to move at all. So here's what's going to happen now. You're going to have brokerages that are going to say, man, this is, co-broking. I tell you what, we're going to just start doing this thing for 4 oranges. And then when they start doing it, then you'll see other companies say, man, they getting all the business. We probably need to reevaluate. And so you might have another firm says, well, we need to be doing this thing for 2.5 plums. And that comes down there. That's the whole design. That's the design to say that they don't want the real estate industry still being fixed at this number when everything else has to go up and down depending on what the market is. Now, we're saying they're not fixed. We're saying there is negotiation in it, but perception is reality. And the consuming public says we haven't moved. We are price fixing. We are colluding with one another. We're not transparency in what we get. A lot of our agents were not even telling the buyers that they were getting bonuses on houses. They'd lead them to a certain property, and the builder's giving another $5,000, and the agent never even tell the buyer that they're getting an extra $5,000 on it now. So a lot of this stuff has been self-inflicted wounds. A lot of this stuff that we're having to deal with now. And so the design is for us to be transparent. If you want to work with me, work with a buyer, here's what I do in my service. Here's what I'm expecting of you. Here's what the compensation would be. And here's how we're going to get it paid. All of that up front so that a person knows exactly what it is. We cannot have ranges. Well, we'll take this or whatever the seller's going to give. No, we have to have we have to have something that's totally not ambiguous, that it is a concrete thing that they know this is what they'll be charged. So we have had to change. And there's a lot of agents upset because if they wasn't doing their work before, they were still able to get paid because it was in the MLS. If they didn't even do a good job, they were still going to get paid because it was in the MLS. So the fear now is that you're not going to be guaranteed that. If you don't do the work and you don't do a good job for your client that you're representing, then you're not going to get any money. And that is a fear of a lot of agents that we have in the industry who are not doing the work. And so this is by design, and that's why I tell people it is by design. And the Department of Justice and these attorneys are saying, you guys are going to change it. Now, whether you kick and scream or whatever you want to do and whatever you want to say and whatever it is, you're going to change it. I believe the pendulum is going to swing too far. I believe that it's going to mess up a lot of stuff. And then they're going to have to say, oops, We didn't mean it, and they bring it back to a central place. But until that happens, we don't have to do what it is that they are wanting us to do, the way we are supposed to do it. And you can count on there will be attrition in our business. There will be agents who will not be able to survive the cut. There will be brokerage firms that will not survive the cut. So all of that will go into play. So y'all just have to kind of think about that. So that's part of it. Now I'm supposed to be talking about module 2. So what I'm going to do is give y'all a 10-minute break.